Well, good morning. I'm Jim Moore, and you are watching Justice for America. This is episode number 118, Monday, January 27th, 2025. And a good Monday to you. We're going to talk today about compassion. What about compassion? A lot of talk right now that the border issue is being kind of turned around. People are being shipped out of the country. There are a lot of voices crying for compassion. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. And what about no more taxes? How'd you like to talk about that? That's a fun thing to talk about. And then we're going to give just a quick overview of not Biden's or Biden's versus Trump's accomplishments. Okay, that'll be fun to do too. I've only got 4 links for you today, and I really encourage you to watch them, especially the last one. The last one is a must watch. And so before I get into those, I want to ask you to go ahead and like and subscribe to the program and to share it with as many people as you can. That will help the word get out and help other people to hear what it is we're sharing. So, all right, let's get right into it. So number 1, we're going to talk about the issue of what's happening at the border. Now, I want to call it the border crisis, and actually it still is a crisis. We've been having this crisis for about, a few years now, and what has been a crisis is the open door policy for the country. Now, this kind of generated in my soul this morning was I read a pastor's commentary that really struck me hard, and I respect this man. And I wouldn't give you his name because of that. But his argument was basically that, where is compassion for all of the, he would call them migrants. People we tend to label things differently according to how it sounds in order to win our argument. You get what I'm saying? Okay. So a lot of people are saying migrants. A lot of people you would maybe call progressive or on the left or libertarians or whatever. They're saying that, calling them migrants or immigrants, because that sounds, we are a country of immigrants, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's true. But they are still here illegally. Now, what about compassion? What about those who are here illegally? But is there ever an instance in which that would be okay? All right, here I am. Okay, I'm going to tell you the truth. Yes. The answer is yes. Okay. If someone was fleeing imminent danger to themselves, their family, their children, we have always considered it acceptable to have sanctuary, to flee as someone who was under persecution and so on and so on. So there are instances in which that would be okay. So we're not saying that's not true. But what we're asking is that what this is right now? And just hear me out. I believe that there are some instances which we need to, listen to me now, continue to show compassion. This is not a first time ever, idea that we would show compassion to people who are fleeing danger or so on and so on, or even just looking for a better life. The people that came into our country originally back, late 17, early 18, so on and so on hundreds, are people that were primarily looking for a better life. I'm in Texas right now, and I've read some of the history of the primarily German people that were fleeing, some real difficulty, not Nazi Germany, but, even before that. There are governments in the world that are horrifying. Literally horrifying. And you cannot blame somebody for wanting to come. However, there is always parameters that have to be set up. Okay. Anybody that doesn't believe that has checked out their brain. Okay. I may want to allow people on the street to come into my home, or take care of them, let them camp out of my yard, whatever. But I have to set boundaries. There are always boundaries. Any, normal human being understands that principle. So the question becomes, what should those boundaries be? Should we have compassion? Yes, we should. All right. So having said all that, we're in the midst of a great departure. Over the last few years, we have had the conservative number now has become 10 million I've heard it all the way up to 20. I don't really care. I mean, it gets to a point where it's really not about the numbers anymore. It's about why this has happened. Has it hurt the country? Has it hurt individuals? You've all heard of Lake and Riley, the young lady who was brutally assaulted and then killed by someone who should not have been here. Okay. Do we have compassion on that? Well, any reasonable person would say, of course not. So one of our issues is that we always want to lump everything into one big package. And so when we see injustice, we want to fight for that. Whether it's injustice on one side, hey, we have military-age men. We have people from other countries who are criminals, people that have been let out of prison for all kinds of heinous crimes here. We have this and this and this. And then we don't talk very much about the other side. Okay, that side is true. Okay, but the other side is true as well. Well, why am I saying this? Because I know it's a lot more popular to just get on one side and fight, and never say too much about the other side, because you're not going to get the fight side on your side. Okay, you get what I'm saying? So there are people that have absolutely no business being here. Now, as it stands right now, out of those 10 million people, how many of them are criminals? We don't know. We have no idea. How many of them are moms with kids? We don't really know that. You will hear people throw out percentages. They don't know. Okay? But right now, while the patient is bleeding, we have to stop the bleeding. Donald Trump has said that's what he's going to do. He's going to come in, he's going to stop the bleeding. Now, there's a potential to take that too far. I'm not going to try to tell you what too far is, but I'm just saying, let your mind wrap around the fact that current leadership could take it too far. They could also not do enough. All right, that's why I'm always encouraging our people to pray for our leaders, that they'll have wisdom and not listen to the naysayers either way. Okay, so if you're going hardcore, which Donald Trump is doing right now, they say about 1,000 verified criminals. Okay, right now it's criminals. Are other people being swept up in it? Maybe. Will other people be swept up as this thing goes on? Once it gets going and continues, will they bring it to a stop and say, okay, we've done enough? People ask me, they say, Jim, do you think that we will literally take the 10 million people plus and take them out into their own country of origin? This is just a point of view. I kind of don't think that'll go that far. Now, I'm not saying it should or shouldn't. I'm just saying I know that we, right now a lot of energy has been given to this, and I'm going to talk about something that's happening that you probably don't fully understand in just a second. But typically these things go really strong and then they build up to a place and then they kind of plateau and then they kind of settle down. So who knows? All right. I'm not the prophet telling you 10 million people are all going to go. No, or I'm going to say, well, it's going to be 1 million. Or I don't know. All I know is that is normally the way things go. Big push in the beginning. Everything's happening. The people who like it are cheering. The people who don't like it are upset about it. Okay. Again, our leaders need wisdom, not to listen just to voices, but to do what's right. So many decisions today are not made from a moral position of right and wrong. They're made based on what the people want, whatever the most popular opinion is, or based on money, or what's expedient for this reason or that reason. We're praying, and I believe we are in a position where we very well could go this direction, where decisions will start being made because of the heart, because of what is moral, because of what is morally intelligent. Okay? Should you have compassion on a person that assaults women and murders? Well, that depends on what you consider compassion. You're not going to have the same kind of compassion for that person. They're going to go to jail. They should go to jail. They, in my opinion, probably ought to receive the most severe punishment for things like that. But you get what I'm saying? You have to look at this thing holistically. And again, I know we don't want that. You would be a lot happier if I come on here and just scream and shout about how bad people are and how they deserve this and and I get that. My compassion chip wars with my justice chip. And that's where you have to be intelligent. That's where you have to talk to God. That's where you have to have a moral basis from which you make your decisions and so on. So one of the things that's happening down at the border. I'm actually going to skip to my last link number 4, because it is the most important one. And many people do not watch these programs to the end, sadly, but I wish they did. But some of you know who Pastor Greg Locke is. Now, I want to start out by saying I don't really care what you think of this man. I'm not here to tell you he's awesome. I'm not here to tell you he's bad. I don't care. What I care about is truth. Okay? And here's a man who is telling the unvarnished truth. And you're going to want to listen to this, even though you're not going to want to listen to it. I myself it's only like 8 or 9 minutes long. I was so sick to my stomach about halfway through that I wanted to shut it off. And I felt like God kept telling me, no, you listen to this. You let this impact you like it impacts me. Okay? Don't you give yourself a hall pass and give yourself a break because it's uncomfortable. There are people that need you to know this so you can at the very least pray or maybe give financially or act. Okay? So Pastor Greg Locke, he's a firebrand. He's a guy that does deliverance ministry. He speaks what's on his mind. Sometimes he does it right. Sometimes he doesn't. Don't come on and tell me that you love him. I don't care. I don't care, okay? You know, sometimes we will reject truth from the mouth of one person because we don't like them, or accept it from the mouth of another because we do like them. What you want to know is what is true, okay? So Pastor Greg recently took a ministry trip to the Philippines. I think it was the Philippines. It could have been any number of countries. Okay, please stay with me here for just a few more minutes. It could have been a number of countries in the world where this reality he talks about is true. Okay? Now, the reality is child trafficking. And I don't have to explain to you what that means, child human trafficking. It is, in my opinion, one of the most evil, if not the most evil, things that are happening in our world today. There are a lot of things right now that are being changed. I believe they're for the good. This is, in my opinion, at the top of the list. I actually think it's God's opinion too, and let me give you a scripture for that for those of you who believe in the Bible, okay, which I know most of you do. There's only one sin that's unforgivable, okay, and then right under that sin is the one where Jesus said, if you cause a little child to stumble or to be not offended like we think of offense, but to cause them harm. Let's just say that, harm. And when we're talking about human trafficking, that is the worst possible life-changing, soul-altering, emotionally crippling harm that you could do to a child. Okay, even people in prison want to end the life of a prisoner who comes in that has been found guilty of such crimes. Okay, you follow me? So Pastor Locke is in the Philippines, and he's doing, I'm going to say this, he's doing, I think, pretty much what I would do. I'm not elevating myself. I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure this is how I would react too. I think there are times to get angry. Now, I know some of you have been taught that, well, anger is never of God and blah, blah, blah. I don't believe people who are angry all the time are doing what God wants them to do. The Bible says to put away wrath and anger and so on. But then, again, as often happens in the Bible, it has a flip side to that. There's two sides to every coin. Okay, it talks about be angry and sin not. There are things that God gets angry about. You can't erase that out of him just because you think that would be a better version of God. You can't do that. Okay, so when God sees a child being abused, that makes him angry. Trust me, it makes him angry. And it should make you angry, or at least brokenhearted. Why hasn't more been done in this realm? I think it's because we don't like to look at it. Because we would rather feel comfortable. We would rather not feel emotional. We don't want to cry. We don't, it's like when you watch the puppy dog videos and the little puppies are shaking and they're talking about how abused they are. After a while you just want to switch the channel, right? That's pretty normal. However, the rescuing of those children or those little puppies depends on someone taking up the cause, allowing themselves to be burdened by it. being willing to shed the tears, willing to write the letters, willing to give the money, willing to do something, anything for heaven's sake. That's why I love about prayer, because it removes every excuse. Well, what can we do about it? I hate that so much. You know, God made the one thing that every human being could do, and that's pray. And yet we still often don't even do that. Anyway, I don't want to get preachy. It's time you listen to this. Now this, you remember the movie Sound of Freedom, Jim Caviezel, wonderful, wonderful actor, same guy that did The Passion of the Christ. Love Jim Caviezel. Well, he has become an advocate for the rescuing of these children. And and him, Tim Tebow's doing this, a number of people. Again, nobody wants to, this will probably not be listened to, this program, very much. Actually kind of have to hide it from the title because I know people don't want to listen, but we need to listen. So Jim Caviezel did Sound of Freedom. Well, this is a real life thing. This is not a made-for-movie based on a real story, of course. This is a real guy, like me, like you, who is in the Philippines. I think he's still there right now, who is doing his best to keep it under control, to not give way totally to his emotions, and to give the facts about what's actually going on as far as the human you-know-what trade. Okay? So Jim, why don't you just say it? Because they keep striking me. Okay? But you know what I'm talking about. I don't need to be graphic. And then there's another pastor I heard that this shook me so bad, it affected me for weeks when he went into great detail. Okay, well, you don't need to do that. Yes, we do. We are so calloused from the stuff we've seen and the media we've watched and listened to, we don't get shaken like we used to. Okay, so I beg you to watch that one. If you don't watch any of the rest of these, that's the number 4. Okay, let me tell you what it's titled real quick. What's really happening at the border. Now, I said the border because what he described is absolutely happening in the very same way at numerous places around the world, including our border, our own American-Mexican border. This is not a joke. 300,000 children who they have lost track, our government has lost track of, thank God now. Those of you who are like anti-Trumpers, well, at least give the man credit. They have now found 80,000 of those 300,000 kids. Many of them, if not most of them, have been involved in some level of trafficking. Okay? Now that's just a fact. All right. So it is happening on our border. Here's something to chew on, all right, before we go. Do you know that the number 1 human trafficking event in the United States is? Every year it happens to the tune of thousands and thousands of trafficked minors as well as adults. Are you ready for this? It's the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, it's great, it's awesome, let's have a party. I get it. I'm not a huge sports guy, but I don't mind sitting around eating snacks and watching some guy carry a pointed ball around, you know. It's not a religion to me like it is for some of you, okay? But I get it, it's okay. But what's happening in that regard is not okay. All right? I am thankful right now that there is someone in the White House who is saying we're not going to just talk about this anymore, we're going to do it. And the accomplishments that he has done in the last few days are stunning. And listen to me real quick, listen to me. Leadership matters. It matters to those kids who are trafficked. It matters to those parents who lost their girls because someone who was here illegally took advantage of them and then took their life. It matters to them. It may not matter to you, and you might want to throw everybody in one big lump and say, hey, they're all really good and we ought to have compassion and this is not what Jesus would do. Baloney. Okay, you need to look at both sides of the equation. That's what I'm trying to help you to do. Okay, hate me if you want, but I'm trying to tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I don't even know it all. All right. So you can at least pray. You can at least pray. Ask God to do something. Let me show you the few links, the other 3 links real quick. I'm not going to go long, just another 2 or 3 minutes here. The first one President Trump attempted to take, I think it's two plane loads, you can watch it, two plane loads full of Colombian migrants who were here illegally, criminals, okay, for nearly every single one of them, okay. Well, there might have been one. Okay, there might have been one. I'm so sorry, okay. They shouldn't have been here, okay. That happens, okay. I'm not saying it's okay, but it happens, all right. So they went there, and the Colombian president, who is a I think it's M18 or M19 gang member, who was elected as an ultra-left president, said, no way, man. We're not going to let you land those planes here. Okay, and why am I saying this? This is just going to be one of hundreds of issues. I'm saying this for a reason. I watched with great appreciation when Donald J. Trump, who I believe is doing his best to help America, I don't think he has nefarious intent. I don't think he wants to be a dictator or a god, okay? I'm looking at what the Bible says, you'll know them by their fruit, so I'm looking at the fruit. What's he doing? You're going to hear a lot of testimonies about this in the coming days. This isn't going to happen in a week or a month. It's going to go on for a while. How far they'll let it go, we don't know. All right? But he threw the hammer down. Lean in close and listen to what I'm telling you. This is what we're lacking in leadership. There's a time for leadership to be congenial and soft and diplomatic and say nice words and try to make nicey with everybody. I actually do believe that. But there's a time you throw down the hammer and you say, we will not tolerate this. We will not put up with this. Okay, now you got to be careful that you do that in the times that it requires that and not just do it every time for everything, because then you do become a tyrant and a dictator. But this was one of those times. Said, no, these are your people. You emptied out some of your prisons. You sent them here. Venezuela, I think, did the same thing, different one. Says, you're taking them back. And this is what it did. You can get the details, watch the video. Took away their money. Said, well, first of all, we're going to start charging. Imagine dealing with a country financially that does not have your best interest in mind. How did we get to that place? How is it that we got to the place where we send pallets of money to an enemy that wants to destroy us as a nation? How does that happen? Oh, that's not happening. Yes, that is. That is truly happening. Okay. Some people just do not want to believe what all the evidence in the world shows them. Okay, how do we get there? How do we get that we would just back up, like the former administration no doubt would have done, and just say, well, you know, blah, 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 let's talk this through? No. He said, I'm going to charge you 25% tariffs anything you're shipping. We are allowing them to ship stuff to our country. Benefits us, benefits them, but not at the risk of you becoming our enemy. So, nope. And in a week, that 25% tariff is going to go up to 50% tariff. That, you don't know, but that represents billions of dollars, okay? It's a big economic hit. You know, many of these guys from other countries, they're motivated primarily by money. The pharmaceutical industry, don't get me started on that, right? My beloved is watching. We're learning things that are just, curling our hair. And yes, making us righteously indignant that people would care. Bottom line is money. Let's make money. Who cares what it does to people? Let's make money. That happens in many of our institutions, governmental, federal, even private, that it's about the money, okay? So why does Donald Trump hit them with the money first? Because that's what matters most to them. And then he talked about some other things, some sanctions and this and that and revoking, diplomatic status and blah, 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 all of that stuff. Well, within, 36 hours, the Colombian president folded. He said, whoa, 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 don't touch me money, bro. So it's like, okay, let's not use that for every single thing that we like or don't like. But when it comes to something that really matters, yeah, let's do that. So that was number one. Number two, this is a really good update, real quick. This is a guy named AJ that I've just recently started watching. He gives an overview of some of these accomplishments that have happened through Donald Trump. I wrote here, let me read what I wrote. I wrote update on Biden's, and then I said, oops, I mean Trump's accomplishments. One of the things that troubles me deeply is the fact that these things could have been done by the former administration if they had a mind and a will to do it. But again, what motivates, these are not ignorant people. Now, and I know some of you are going to make fun of this statement, and I get where you're coming from, so don't freak out. But let me say that they're not unintelligent people. Many times people that get in high positions, they're like Yale and Harvard, they're not unintelligent. But they do what they do for a different set of motives than someone like you and I would do. Okay. Primarily it comes down to morality or money. Those are the two ends. M&M. All right. So watch that one. You're going to like it. That's real good. And then the third and last one here. Trump has promised to begin I want to dissect the word for just a second and then I'm done. We have what is called an internal, that means inside our country, internal revenue. What is revenue? That's when you get money. Okay, you go to McDonald's, you work a job, you earn some revenue. Okay, we like to make fancy words so people don't think about them too much. Internal revenue, service. So yeah, we're going to serve you by taking your money. That's awesome. Okay, the internal, we're going to get revenue internally from our own people as a service to the country. Okay, so the IRS never used to exist. I don't remember the exact date. It was 13 or 30 or I don't know. I'm not the numbers guy. I don't get all that. We did not have an internal source of making money to fund the government, i.e. internal revenue service, until, a decade or so after the turn of the century. Now, if that was a disaster, if we look back in those days when can you even imagine not getting taxed? Somebody coined the phrase, probably some tax guy. The only thing that's predictable, the only sure thing is death and taxes. Well, what else? That's probably an IRS guy that said that. Anyway, I'll probably get tagged. False information. All right. There was a time we didn't. Now, if that time would have been a time where we were dirt poor and doing really bad, or even on the edge of doing really bad, I could see. But one president, here's your homework. Find out who that one president was. Somebody probably already knows. One president said, hey guys. No, listen. One leader affected your life in profound ways. Okay? One area of life is finances. There's finances, there's health, there's relationships, marriage, divorce, there's all kinds of things. Okay? So that one individual, you thinking about this? I want you to think about this. That one person directly affected your life and the life of millions of other people, just because he decided this was the right thing to do. Now, Donald Trump has created and he's already in the process, already signed the executive order that's already starting. He did not sign an executive order to eliminate the internal revenue service, the IRS, but he did sign an executive order to begin an external. Not trying to insult your intelligence, I want you to think about it. In other words, we're going to get revenue externally. Now, we've always done this. It's not like it's a new thing. We have tariffs. People charge us tariffs when China ships us stuff. When we ship stuff to China, they will charge a fee, to let that's what a tariff is, just a fee to let it come into their country, and it gets tacked on to, whatever. Same thing with us. When China sends stuff to us, I'm just saying China as an example, we can charge them a certain amount of money, 5%, 10%, nothing, 100% tariff. Nobody does that. But you get what I'm saying? So we do have revenue that comes externally, okay? But Donald Trump has said, I'm going to create an external revenue service, and he's doing it. Now, on the link, and I'm done, on the link that I gave you, is him taking it a little step further, because up till now, he hasn't said he's going to eliminate the IRS or eliminate internal taxes. And in this one, he still didn't completely say, I will do this. But he is definitely hinting around it more and more. So what would it be like if your taxes went away? I know I would do handstands if I could still do them. I would rejoice. Okay. And I think most America, would this help America? I think it would. Let me just end by saying this. Why would it help America? Because I believe at least, this is my opinion, at least 50% of the revenue, whatever source, external, internal, 50% of the revenue or more that comes into our country is unnecessary. Now, I'm not alone in that belief. There are very many intelligent, economists and people who say, it's gotten so out of hand, we could chop a whole bunch of stuff and be just fine. So the hammer's coming down. The corruption is being exposed. Don't just be so much a leftist that you can't even acknowledge that there has been incredible corruption that has happened not in Mexico and China and all these other countries we like to point to, but our country. And now has come a time, I believe, and an opportunity to root out some of that corruption in our finances, in our food industries, in our pharmaceutical, in so many things. And I believe God's behind it. That's my opinion. All right, guys, I'm done. God bless you. Again, please, if you can only watch one video, watch the last one. And then come on to this program or YouTube. I really appreciate it if you come on to YouTube. I've only got one or two people, you know who you are, who ever go and watch that and give comments to it. And I know it would take extra time, but it would really help us. And because if we have to move to YouTube, I don't really want to do that. But it's important that we have that venue as well. All right. God bless you. Love you all. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in, subscribe, share this link with other people, and just generally help us out. And listen, God's in control. Okay, He's got a plan. Everything's going to work out. Fight for what is right, okay, but also walk in peace. So, amen. This is Jim Moore signing out. Oh, go ahead and subscribe, all of that, and give yourself permission to have a great day. Bye-bye.